I'm glad we're back. Now that you have your workspace all set up and your materials organized, let's talk about color. In this lesson, you'll learn how to create a color wheel for this class and all the work you do in the future. You'll get a basic understanding of color relationships and learn how to use those color relationships to avoid making mistakes and muddy colors. Let's start with a color wheel. Remember, all of the materials that I'm showing you here, you can download from your class materials, and you'll definitely want to have a color wheel so you can work along with me. When you're working with a color wheel, you could use a printed one that you could buy or download from the internet, but the colors won't be exactly the same as your colored pencils. So it's really valuable to make your own wheel. You can see on my wheel in front of me that I've set up 2 reds, 2 blues, and 2 yellows, rather than just one of each. The reason is I'm looking at color bias. So I'm looking at reds and thinking, is this more the red of a raspberry or the red of a tomato? The raspberry is more of a violet red, the tomato is more of an orange red. When I think about yellows, I'm thinking, is it more like a school bus or a lemon? An orange yellow would definitely be the school bus, and a green yellow is like the lemon. The same goes for the blues. Am I thinking of a violet blue that's more like the sky, or a green blue more like the ocean? If I can master these 6 pencils, I can make almost every color that I'll ever want for a drawing. So let's get started, and then I'll show you how. I'm going to store my pencils over here on this shelf liner. It's a nice sticky surface, so they won't roll around when I'm trying to find them. Now that you can see the page, I've written in the number of the pencil and the color name that I find on the pencil. There's a lot of information on a pencil that could be really useful to you. These are from Germany, so the first name is in German. The second name, in this case, Middle Purple Pink, is in English. There's a number, 125, and then there are these little stars. The stars tell you how light fast the pencil is. In this case, it has 2 stars. That means that that color will last 50 years in normal light. Kind of nice to know you're working with really good materials. So we'll start with this color, 125, a violet red. When I'm talking about violet red, I'm using red as its last name. Its first name is the tint. So this is a violet red. We'll start up here in the very first section of the color wheel, using that pencil stroke we learned in the last lesson, the smooth fill. I'm not too worried about getting it exactly even or about whether I go out of the lines or inside the lines a little. I just want to get color all the way across this little section. I can always go back and fill in if I don't feel like I got it completely. The quicker you do this, the happier you'll be. You don't want to spend too much time making your color wheel. Now, you may want to make this a little bit more beautiful. You could access another one of those pencil strokes we used, the eyelash stroke. So I'll start here, planting my pencil on the line and drawing it up into the color. If I do the same from the other side, I'll start to get a nice 3-dimensional effect. If you'd rather just color flat, absolutely you can do that. And you can make this a little darker or lighter if you'd like. Just remember, don't press too hard. This is the kind of tone that we'll be drawing with, so it's going to be the most helpful to us now. Here's a tip. When you organize your pencils, follow the list on your color wheel. Then you'll be sure you don't pick up the wrong pencil by mistake. If you're using different pencils than mine, you'll want to write in the names of your pencils. Be sure that you have pencils that correspond to all of these different colors. As you work your way around the color wheel, you'll find that it's easiest to draw straight up and down, to draw toward yourself rather than at an odd angle. So just move the color wheel as you go. You'll be working your way all the way around the wheel. I've already filled in my color wheel at the outside ring, and here's what yours will look like too. I've got all of my colors in place, and you can really see the difference, for instance, between a blue that's more violet and a blue that's more green, between the green or yellow and the orange yellow, between the orange red and the violet red. Now we're going to mix up what we think of as regular primary colors. These are those preschool colors that all kids' toys are made from. But we'll use both of our reds to get a good neutral red. So I'm going to pick up violet red and orange red. And here's how we'll work on that. We'll start holding our pencil the way that we've already learned, halfway back, and with a light pencil stroke, I'm laying down one layer of my violet red. You could use either red first, it won't matter in this case. You'll notice that I'm holding the non-working pencil in my other hand. I don't want to put it down and forget which pencil I was using. Now I have a layer of violet red and a layer of orange red, and I'm going to go again. What's happening is I'm building luminous color with light layers and a sharp pencil point, and now with just a few layers I've achieved a red that is not violet, it's not orange, it's its own color. That's my primary red. I'm going to do the same with the blue and the yellow. When we apply yellow pencils, they're such a light pigment that we tend to want to press hard, and I'm going to ask you to refrain from that. Keep your pencil pressure at about a 2 all the time. A 2 is just a little more than the weight of the pencil. It just means that your thumb is resting on the top of the pencil. Let me show you what happens if I put too much of one of the colors. Here I've kind of turned my yellow to a green yellow. It's an easy fix. I'll just add a little bit more of the orange yellow, and now I have a yellow that's right in between the two. I'll do the same thing with the blues, and my color wheel will look like this. So now I know my biased colors around the outside. I have my primary colors on the inside. We'll mix up some secondary colors. A secondary color is a combination of two primaries. In the case of the violet color, we're going to be looking for the blue that is most likely to give us a good violet. That would be violet blue. And the red that will give us a good violet, violet red. Those two are going to make a really nice violet color. I've also pulled out a violet pencil. You can see it's number 249, mauve. So in half of this triangle, I'm just going to apply that purple pencil, the violet pencil, so I have a little bit of a target to aim for when I'm mixing my color. Not a heavy layer, just a little bit. I'll start with blue because this is quite a blue violet. And the order in which you lay down colored pencils makes a difference. We'll learn more about that as we go on. When I have the blue down and add a little bit of red, you can see me getting closer to this violet already. I'll just do a couple of layers, and when I feel like I've got it matched, I'm going to stop. Like mine, yours may come out a little bit darker than that violet that you made first. You can always darken that up to match. And now we have a pretty good match. The difference is the violet straight out of that pencil, I call house paint. It's just flat. But the violet that we made resonates with blue and with red, so there's more of a lively color. It's more nuanced. We can do the same with green. Even with a really light value, green yellow, and a darker value, green blue, they'll mix beautifully to create a green like the green colored pencil. There we go. We have a pretty good match. Again, I'll darken up this green a little bit so they're the same value. Value is the lightness and darkness. Hue is the color. So similar hue, similar value. Now, the value of having the color wheel done in colored pencils is that I can use these colors specifically to predict the color recipes, the color outcome of my drawing. I'm not counting on an ink color to provide colored pencil information. One way that this is really helpful is to get good color relationships going in your work. So let me explain a little bit about what that means. The two most important relationships between colors are analogous colors and complementary colors. Let's start with the complements. Complementary colors sit opposite each other on the color wheel. Let me show you what that means. Green and red are complements. Violet and yellow, orange and blue. The way I learned it was Christmas, Easter, and the Denver Broncos. You'll never forget that. But there's a bigger story of complementary colors, and that's what happens on the outside of the color wheel. Violet red and green yellow are complements, violet blue and orange yellow, and green blue and orange red. You can use complements to give you a brighter, more dynamic effect in your drawings. You can also use them really effectively in creating shadow colors. In terms of analogous colors, these are near neighbors on the color wheel. So red, orange, and yellow would fall into an analogous group. Blue, green, and green-yellow would fall into an analogous group. Violet red and violet blue are analogous. The group that you're looking for is a tight match on the color wheel without ever going all the way across. These are the colors you use to get bold, dynamic colors and mixes that will catch your eye from across a room. Let me show you what that looks like. I've started with just some primary colors. I have a red, a blue, and a yellow. I'm using a page that's also in your materials called Color Recipes, and we'll come to that a little bit later. In this case, with the red, I've used analogous color to create a more violet red and a more orange red by adding a little bit of violet or orange. Either way, I've added a lot of interest to this original color by tinting it with an analogous color. You'll see some good examples of this in my finished work. For the blue, I've made it more violet by pushing to the violet, blue, and violet, and I've made it more green by pushing to the greens. So you can see a big difference between these blues, and you can see that they're not just flat like the color from the pencil. I'm starting you early on this because I'm not going to let you ever lay down color just from one pencil. In the yellow range, the analogous colors for yellow, I've pushed it a little bit to the green here and a little bit more to the orange here. All of these colors are harmonious. You'll never make a mistake with analogous colors. Interior designers love analogous colors because it's very easy on the eye. On the other hand, sometimes you want to create a little excitement. If I take my same red and add green, the opposite on the color wheel, adjacent to the red, you can see that both colors pop. This was the basis for the op art movement of the 1960s, was complementary color that made your eye work a little bit. There's a reason that a red poinsettia at Christmas time looks so beautiful and striking, and it's complementary color. With the blue, I've used blue and orange. You get that same vibrant reaction. The same is true using violet and yellow. But the opposite is true when you layer those colors. So when I added the same green to the red, can you see how it dulled down? It created kind of a shaded look. And here's a hint, that can easily turn into mud. So anytime you get a muddy color, you've probably brought in a little bit of the complement, even not knowing that you did. The same is true of blue and orange, yellow and violet. We'll use all these color relationships to good effect when we start drawing. For your homework, finish up your color wheel. Here's a tip to make it look 3D like mine. After you get the basic color in, really pump up those little pencil strokes at both sides of the color wheel. The stronger they are, the more 3D. In our next lesson, I'll share with you my own layering techniques for creating luminous colors.